It's now time to cover basic position for beginners. I'll give a quick demo on how to play a stun shot, a topspin and a backspin shot, and then I'll give a couple of routines to practice those ones. Firstly, a stun shot is when you hit the cue ball and after it connects with the object ball, it doesn't really go forwards or backwards. If you're making a full ball contact with a ball, the cue ball basically just stops where the object ball was. I believe in some places this is called a stop shot, but in the UK it's a stun. It doesn't have to be a straight shot though. You can play a stun shot and still move the cue ball. Here's a few examples now. It's quite a simple shot to play. All you want to do is hit the cue ball in the centre and remember a couple of basic principles when you're doing that. The first is to keep your cue level. And the second is after making contact with the cue ball, your cue should follow through. That's how you would play it on most cue sports, whether that's snooker, billiards or most variations of pool. The very slight difference is on UK pool, and it's because the cue ball is very slightly smaller than the object ball. So when it comes into contact with it, the cue ball actually bounces back slightly. So to counteract that movement, instead of hitting right in the centre of the cue ball, you want to hit just a fraction above that. That means that when it contacts the object ball, it should stop about there. Now, I won't give a specific practice routine for stun shots, but if you did want to practice them, then you could use a round the clock routine from the previous video. Let's move on to topspin shots. We're going to use the same two principles I just mentioned. Your cue should be level and follow through after connecting with the cue ball. But this time, you should raise your bridge and hit further up the cue ball, about 3/4 of the way up. Doing this will mean the cue ball goes forward after contacting the object ball. To practice it, I'd like you to set up a straight pot in the centre pocket. I want you to pot the object ball and try and get the cue ball into the same pocket. This might seem very simple, but it's actually working on all three things we've covered so far. That's aiming, cueing straight, and now topspin. With aiming, it's not enough to simply pot it. We want to pot it right in the centre of that pocket. For example, if we pot it in this side of the pocket, you can see the cue ball won't go in. We can also aim it perfectly, but if we cue slightly offline, you can see the cue ball also doesn't follow straight through. A good tip to remember is to stay down on the shot after you've hit it and just check your cue is still in line with the middle of the pocket. Try that one with all 15 balls that are on the table and record your score. An alternative is to play it like this, where you line up the same shot, but instead of putting the cue ball in the pocket, just run it through a few inches. Then respot the ball and do the same from that side. Now it sounds simple, but keeping that cue ball in a straight line is actually harder than you think. Next, we'll cover a backspin shot. It's similar to the topspin, but this time we want to hit it about 3/4 of the way up the cue ball. And almost the same two principles again. You can't get your cue completely level in a backspin shot, but you should try and keep it at a shallow angle. Don't raise your backhand, instead lower your bridge hand. And remember to follow through after striking the cue ball. A lot of beginners don't do this on a backspin shot. To practice, we're going to do the same routine as a topspin shot. We want to pot the object ball in that pocket and the cue ball in the opposite one. Again, this is going to improve our positional skills as well as aiming and straight cueing. So try that one with all 15 balls as well and record your score. Another alternative, pretty much the same again. Line up the same straight shot, but instead of bringing the cue ball back into here, just bring it back a few inches. Respot the ball and then play the shot again. And keep going to see how many that you can get. Again, you're always trying to beat your previous score. It's quite similar to the topspin shot, where it's actually quite difficult to keep that cue ball online, but if you can get all 15, then you're doing well. Now we'll cover a routine that works on stun, topspin and backspin shots. Let's start with just 3 balls in a row, and you can pot them in any pocket, in any order, and use whatever position you like. So for this first shot, I'm putting a bit of backspin on the cue ball. Then I'm playing a topspin shot. And finally, I'm stunning the last shot. You don't have to do it like that though. Just play with whatever way gives you the best position on each shot. If you find it too easy, then add a few more balls onto the table. Try finish it consistently before adding more, and set yourself a target to beat. If you're managing 6 pots, then add a 7th ball. Complete that and add another until you're comfortable with the full 15 ball lineup. If you're a beginner, then I would recommend saving the 3 videos in this series so that they're easy to find again. And if you haven't done so already, then please subscribe because I will be adding a lot more upcoming great content. Thanks.